Today I'm speaking to George Ventouras, Executive Director of Artemis Resources, ticker code ARV. The company has recently reported high-grade gold, including an assay of over 10,000 grams per tonne gold at its Titan prospect within its Karratha gold project in the Pilbara region. Welcome, George.
Thanks, Colin. Great to be with you.
Were you surprised at the extent of mineralisation so close to the Carlo deposit? And what does it mean for the potential of the tenement?
Yeah, look, I think we probably were surprised more so because that gold vein, we pretty much exposed it at surface. Across that tenement, we know that there's other gold mineralisation, but we just didn't expect to find it where it was. And, it didn't take much effort to uncover it. And that's quite an exciting thing for us. I mean, as I said, we know that there's a lot of mineralisation going on. We're sitting on some pretty significant faults and structures, and the structures are what creates the pathway for the fluids. So we know if we've got structures, faults, and those shear zones, we know we have good potential for mineralisation and hopefully in gold. But as you probably saw from the results, also copper and there's some pretty high numbers on the silver as well. Many
investors will be familiar with conglomerate gold nuggets, but you said that the latest discovery is not this style of mineralisation. Could you elaborate on this and why?
Yeah, look, it's something that we've been quite determined to point out that, the previous Artemis management did find a lot of nuggets. But when you go back and have a look at those announcements, and I encourage shareholders or investors to do so, you can see that those nuggets are actually quite smooth. And they do, some of the smaller ones do look like watermelon seeds, and that's where they coined the phrase. But there's not a lot of angularity in those pieces. So taking a step back and looking at what we've discovered, I mean, we did find a couple of nuggets in a previous ground reconnaissance program, but those nuggets had a lot of angularity, so they were rough. They had sharp edges, and what that means is that we're getting close to the source. But what we're seeing at Titan is totally different. We're seeing gold in hard rock. These are not nuggets. This is gold in hard rock, in quartz and ironstone veins. So it's a completely different ballgame. And so what we're sitting on now is the source. So those nuggets that were freewheeling in the alluvials and the sand that were pulled up, and prospectors do pull up from time to time all over the place. That's free gold, and that's great, but it comes from somewhere. And the exciting thing about Titan is that we've discovered one prospect of where that source is. So in those images in the release, you'll see gold in those rock samples, and that's how we chipped them out. We didn't dig the nugget out as such. We dug out gold that was in situ with the hard rock. So completely different story. We're sitting on the source, and now the work is to track and see how big that source might be.
I guess you've alluded to it a bit in that last answer, but can you provide any more detail on the potential for scale within the hard rock gold veins?
Yeah, I look to the technical team to provide me with that input, but when we look at Carlo and we see Carlo, the conceptual pit's around about 1.5 k's of strike length, and it's still open all directions. What we're seeing at Titan is already 700 metres of mineralised trend. It's under shallow cover, and we think it can go further. So if Carlo's sitting on 374,000 ounces of gold plus a bunch of copper and cobalt over that distance, then we're sure that Titan will be tracked further. And if we can get anything even close to that number, I think we'll be happy. And that's the whole premise of what we're trying to do. We started off with the Carlo project. We've got that base resource. We can grow it by spending some more time and money on it. But what we're looking at is a tenement-wide application, and how many of these Carlos can we potentially find? And if we can find 3, 4, 5, 6 Carlos, we're sitting on a fair amount of gold, and all of a sudden we're talking development, not just exploration. So it's really quite exciting.
So investors always like to look into the future. What type of follow-up work will you be looking at to test for hard rock gold prospects?
Well, we're already on the ground and have been on the ground again up and around near Titan, just trying to see what else we can find that might be under shallow cover. As I've alluded to before, we're looking at this tenement package we've got holistically. So we're trying to map all the structures, faults, shear zones, any identifiable gold veins, and have that as the basis for our exploration program. So we've been doing that for the last couple of months. We've got a whole lot of information, a whole lot of areas to follow up. So once we've completed that, we'll start to prioritise and start to work in those areas where we see the most prospectivity. In and around probably the Carlo tenement, where we've got Carlo, Titan now. We've got some really compelling targets in and around. That 23% copper target that copper rock chip, came from south of Carlo. So we're sitting on quite an exciting mineralised tenement that it hasn't been fully explored by previous technical teams. So we see a lot of upside. We see, we're arguably in a brownfields location, but with a huge amount of greenfields potential. So, it's pretty much a double whammy. We're quite excited by that. So there'll be a lot of work. There'll be a lot of news flow. We do have the Lulu Creek prospect to the west. And that's the subject of a government grant for co-funded drilling. So heritage ethnographic clearances are just about done. Written reports, hopefully in the next few weeks or so, and that'll open the pathway to drill there. So that'll be happening sooner rather than later. So there's a lot of stuff happening across the whole tenement package, and we'll bring it to market when we have the news.
Certainly exciting times at Artemis and plenty of news flow on the horizon. George, really appreciate your time today.
Oh, it's always great to be with you, Colin. Thank you.